Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elise and this is my mystical bookshelf. And for today's video, I have for you an actual book. This is one that I actually read. I didn't listen to it. I feel like I've been just posting lots of videos about audiobooks recently. But honestly, audiobooks are just so much easier to listen to. But I digress. This is The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abby Waxman. And I read this during September. I read it in like the first part of September and I forgot about it until just recently because I was like, I totally loved it. And I was like, why haven't I made a video about it yet? So I was like, I should probably do that. But yeah, so this book follows Nina. She's the main character. And she lives a very quiet, very thoughtful life. And she doesn't really talk to a lot of people. She kind of has social anxiety. And she's really an introvert, like through and through. And I relate to her a lot with that aspect. Especially with the social anxiety and the introversion. And she really likes to read. That's something that she enjoys doing. And she works at a bookshop. And we basically follow her life as like her day-to-day life, but her life kind of gets thrown out of whack because she learns that she has like this giant family and she had no idea about it. So that's kind of like where the story takes place, is Nina like learning about, because she never knew her dad. And her mom never really told her about her dad. And it's kind of sad because Nina, I think her social anxiety and her introversion kind of stem from her mom not paying attention to her a whole lot. Her mom seems kind of like a laissez-faire, kind of like unintentionally neglectful parent, which her mom seems great. She seems really nice. It's not like anything like that. She's so flippant, and she's a traveling reporter, and she's a photographer, I think. Not a reporter, but a photographer. So she goes on all these adventures all the time, and she used to take Nina with her when she was like a baby, and when she was like a toddler, but as Nina got older, she didn't take her with her as much, and she kind of never really spent time with Nina. That's kind of what I got from it. So it's kind of sad in that aspect, but it doesn't really seem to bother Nina, but it might bother her. She doesn't really let the reader know that it bothers her, because it's kind of like one of those unspoken things, I think. But so Nina, her backstory is she's raised by her nanny, and I can't remember her nanny's name at the moment, but her nanny's this really sweet lady. So Nina turns out kind of like her, not really like her mom. So that might be where the personality change differs, because her mom seems like super extroverted and like she travels the world and lives by herself, is a very independent woman type of thing. And Nina just isn't really like that. And so Nina has this really homey life. She lives in Los Angeles and she works at this bookstore, and she basically does the same thing every day. She's a very monotonous person, which I also understand. When someone has anxiety, they really try to lean into the routine very heavily. Like I noticed that I do that as an anxious person. That's just kind of something that I think a lot of anxious people tend to do, is they try and lean into stuff that they can control. And Nina, I think, wants to control the mundanity of her life, which I totally understand. I relate to that very heavily. But her life is kind of thrown out of whack by learning about her dad. Her dad's name is William, and she just learns about it on a whim because he passes away, and she never knew him. She never met him or anything, but she receives this letter, and it's like, your dad left you this something something in his estate. I think he left her like a car or something like that, like something that was important to him. And she's like, what? I have a family? And I guess William's kind of like someone who has gotten married a lot. So he met Candace, which was Nina's mom, but he never married her. He had an affair with her, which is what Nina learns. And that's kind of, I think, a really big reckoning for Nina, because she's like, what? I had no idea that was in my mom's personality. I thought she was just like, she chose to have this suitor, but just never married him. She didn't realize that it was like an affair type of thing. So she learns about that, and then in the letter it states that she has a lot of siblings as a result, which is something that Nina is definitely not used to, because she grew up as an only child, obviously. She grew up only around her nanny. She doesn't really have that many friends. And, I mean, obviously she keeps to herself, classically. I think the only thing that she really does, besides go to the bookstore, she does this trivia night stuff with some friends. Those are, like, her only friends, I think. And I don't even know if she's super close with them, because she seems very, like, I want to keep to myself. I don't want to get too close to anybody. And that could also stem from her mom and, like, her dad not being there, too, inadvertently, even though she never really knew about her dad. So she tries to confront her mom about her dad, and her mom is really laissez-faire about it, very flippant. Like I said, her mom's personality, she doesn't even really seem like a mom. She doesn't seem like someone who would be, like, suitable for being a mom, which sounds horrible, but that's the way Nina describes her own mother, actually. So that's even more horrible, in my opinion. But, so she learns all about her family, and she meets up with one of her nephews. And I just want to show this, like, little part in the book. This is on page 68. This is Nina's family tree. It looks like it's backwards, but yeah, that's her family tree. So she learns all about William's previous marriages. She learns about Alice and Rosie and Eliza. And the one that he was most recently married to, I think, was Eliza, because he has a very young daughter, and I think that's Nina's cousin, great niece. I don't really know how the family tree all works out, because it's very confusing. Even reading that little chapter, I kind of got it, but it was kind of like, I don't know, it seems weird. But so anyway, she learns out from her nephew. Her nephew's name is Peter, and he's like super nice to Nina. He's the one in the family that is, he's a lot like her, actually. And Nina finds out that she's a lot like her dad, which is why she understands why she never connected with her mom, because she's more like her dad, even though she never really knew her dad, which I thought was really sweet. And she learns out that her dad's family is a lot like her, actually. Like, they're all very similar. They're all very introverted. I don't know if they necessarily have the same social anxiety or anxious tendencies as Nina, but they definitely have that. They're more reserved a little bit. And she really connects with Peter at first, and I think they become kind of best friends in the book, which I thought was kind of sweet. And it's one of those weird scenarios where her nephew is older than Nina. So that's where it gets confusing, because it's like, yeah, she's his aunt, but she's younger than him. But that's because that her dad's been married so many times that there's a lot of generations in the family, which is something that I found interesting. And like I said, the most recent, like, daughter of William is Millie, and Millie's like 10 years old. So she's really, really young, considering everything that happened. But Nina goes and meets her new family, and they meet during this, like, estate, I don't know what to call it, where they, like, review the estate, review the will, they review everything that William left to everybody. And, like, none of them knew about Nina, obviously, because it was an affair. And they obviously didn't know anything about Candace. So Nina is kind of like showing up in this rogue scenario, and she's like, I don't know any of you people. You don't know me, but I'm William's daughter, apparently, an illegitimate daughter, but nonetheless. And I don't know, most of the family is very accepting of Nina, which I thought was nice. It's kind of like a weird blended family scenario, which was very sweet to read about, honestly. That was the main thing with this book, the main like lesson, I guess, is that no matter what, your family is your family, and it's nice to like learn to get along with them and to be friends with them and to know that you always have blood, even if it doesn't, even if you feel like you have nothing else. At least you know you have family. And that's what I think Nina's biggest like lesson that she learned in this book, is that she didn't feel so alone after she met her family, even though there was one person that wasn't accepting of Nina, who thought Nina was like trying to trick them into giving her money, which I thought was ridiculous. And I don't even know where that person even came up with that idea, because it just sounds really stupid. But I mean, I guess it happens. But that person, her name was Lydia. She's very annoying. Like, seriously. She was one of the most annoying characters in this book. And she kind of grew on me as the book went on, but in the very beginning, I'm like, girl, you need to back off. Like, Nina doesn't even know you. Like, why would she want to pretend to be someone just to get money? Because she doesn't even care about the money. And she, actually, the car that she gets from her dad, like, she sells it because she wants to save the bookstore that she's working at. Because that's another side plot, is the bookstore that she's working at right now is like in danger of closing. And Nina's like, I can't lose this part of my life because this is my job. I really like working here. I really like my boss. I really like my coworkers and stuff. And so Nina uses that money to buy the bookstore at the end of the story. So honestly, it was never even really about the money. It was about Nina just trying to save like a specific part of her life, which is understandable. And another subplot in this book kind of has a lot of different side stories in it, which is it's not as confusing as it sounds. Like, the main plot is Nina like finding out she has a family and then wanting to save her bookstore that she works for. And then another thing that's thrown into it is this romance with this rival team that she plays trivia with. There's the rival team that she competes against for trivia night, and she starts falling in love with the main guy. His name is Tom, and the romance is very sweet. It's really cute. It's a closed-door romance, which I thought was nice, which I really appreciate that, because as I have stated many times in my previous videos, I'm not a big fan of open-door romance. I just think I feel like I'm infringing on something when I know that it's an open door. It's like, I don't want to know anything about that. That is your private. And it's weird because I know it's fictional characters, but it just feels like reading about something really private that I shouldn't be reading about. But yeah, so it's a closed door romance, and I don't even think anything major really happens, even though they do get together at the end of the book. But it's kind of like a back and forth for Tom and Nina. Like, they act like they don't really like each other that much. They act like they're annoyed with each other. It's sort of a loose enemies to lovers, I guess, but it wasn't really like that trope to a key, because it really didn't happen anything like that. But at the end, they realize they do like each other, and he like stays and runs the bookstore with Nina at the end, which I thought was really sweet. And Nina learns to cope with her anxiety better and learns how to let go of things and not control things as much, which I thought was also very relatable. And I appreciated that character arc for her, because she definitely seemed like she grew a lot, and she learned to communicate better with people, and she learned that she doesn't have to control everything, which I thought was very nice. And overall, this book was very slice of life. That's what I liked about it the most. And it feels perfect for fall, especially like the beginning of fall. where it's like kind of warm out still, but you can tell there's going to be a chill in the air soon. It's very cozy. It made me feel really cozy reading it. And this is one of those books, I read it really quickly. Like, I think I finished it in like 2 or 3 days because I was that invested with Nina. And I really liked Nina as a character. I found her super relatable, but I think people will relate to her if they have the same personality as her. Like, I am an anxious person, I am an introverted person. I definitely relate to having a heavy routine and liking my routine and like trying to control that aspect of my life, but I liked the lesson where you kind of have to reckon with you can't control everything, because Nina learns that her family may be chaotic and it may be like kind of messy in terms of her dad and his wives and all that stuff, but she's really happy that she meets her family. That's the main key, the main point in the book, is that she starts out not wanting to meet them, not wanting to meet new people like at all, and then she grows to liking everyone, being friends with everyone, and she's even friends with Lydia towards the end, which I thought was very sweet, after Lydia stops being a weirdo and thinking that she's trying to steal money from William. And William is Lydia's grandpa, so yeah. But I really liked that, and she also learns a lot about her dad in the end. I think he writes her this letter, which I thought was super sweet. Actually, I think it made me start crying when I read it, because it was really nice. It was like William apologized. He basically apologized for being a not-so-great dad to everyone, and for not trying to meet Nina, for not trying to form a relationship with her. And he apologizes for everything that's happened since then. And like, he wrote this before he passed away, obviously. And he wrote a letter for each of his children and each of his grandchildren, which I thought was very sweet. And that was the main thing for me, is I love the family vibes in this book. It's definitely a cozy, like, family oriented with a little bit of romance. I would totally recommend it. It wasn't a 5-star for me though. It was a 4-star, but I mean, it was just the miscommunication trope that had me like rolling my eyes a little bit between Tom and Nina, because it was like they were so back and forth throughout the whole book. It was kind of got a little irritating, but I can understand why Abby Waxman did that, just because it shows Nina's character growth more with the miscommunications and stuff, because she's really bad at communicating with people. But honestly, that's the only thing that bothered me a little bit. But it was really, really good other than that. And it definitely would have been a 5-star if I would have found the miscommunication not so annoying. But, I mean, nonetheless, I recommend it greatly. It's a great book. I would totally read it again. I don't know when I'll read it again, but I would love to reread it because it is really good. And it was really cute. I loved all the vibes. It was definitely very cozy. It felt like drinking a cup of warm tea. That's what it reminded me of. And the bookstore vibes were great. And I think everyone would really enjoy this if they really like cozy bookstore vibes, like a really nice, sweet romance. And I think people that enjoy family-oriented books are really going to enjoy this too. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that book, and I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you for your support, and please consider liking my videos and subscribing if you enjoy my content. I would appreciate you for doing that. And I thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!